guys. Let's continue with the topic of yesterday. Remember I said that to compare today's high-speed rail cost per mile in California versus that in China, almost like 10 times more expensive than China. But my point is that it's also compare apples to oranges because I mentioned the case that I said if you look at the back in the 1944, American manufacturing share was like more than 40%. Some historian is estimated, and you say that that's apples to compare apples to oranges. I agree, but what I'm making the point I'm making now is that right now, if you compare the high-speed rail cost in China versus that in California, it also compares apples and oranges. The reason is why. If you look at, I ask myself, I said, why does can somebody, I ask the Gemini, I always work with Gemini because Gemini is unlimited. You can always ask questions. And the other guys, ChatGPTs and Cloud and all Perplexity, they all have limit. They only allow you to asking several questions. So sometimes if you ask me to rate the AI platform, I have to rate Cloud as number one, and ChatGPT is number two, and Gemini is probably number three. But anyway, this is just a sideline. I was just thinking, I asked Gemini, I said, could you break down, I don't remember whether it's Gemini or asked ChatGPT, I said, could you break down the cost for high-speed rail in California? Why is it so much more expensive? And then I came up with a table. That's why I said that based on this table, you'll see my point that it's compare apples to oranges. Why? Because it has nothing to do with the education resume of the top leaders in China and in the U.S. Because there's a lot to do with the land acquisition. A big chunk of cost in California is so expensive is you have to acquire the private land. Okay, and then that costs a lot of money, and also a lot of regulations, so make a lot of it, you have to pay the extra cost for protecting the environment, everything like that. So just because these two items shoots up the cost of the high-speed rail. Okay, and I'm just saying that right now it says 200 million per mile. It could be more expensive. You never know, right? You have to wait and see, right? But here it basically says that there is one thing that the wage, the salary of the American workers obviously is more expensive than Chinese. But that's not even the major thing. Finally, the number three item is that you I think the law or something like that, they're saying that you have to buy the parts made in the USA, and then that's also make the whole cost much higher. So China, everything is different. The land acquisition is much cheaper. Remember the Three Gorges Dam. They moved the entire city out of the way of the dam, so they relocated people. Obviously that's not a big issue in China because people they're kind of willing to sacrifice themselves, but most importantly that they get a good compensation. Some families otherwise they would not have that much money, so they'll be more than happy to relocate. In China, everything can be solved by money. So, but this is not the same thing as in the U.S. And also, let's go back to the engineering versus attorney. It has very little to do with the attorney. China being the attorneys, China's being an engineering state, and then American being an attorney state. There's very little to do with it. You know why? I read an article the other day. I think there's one important newspaper called South China Morning Post. It's very important because that's probably the only non-official English newspaper that they have some report. I think it's pretty good. So if you can read English, if you can read Chinese, if you can only read English, read that one. I think that's one. So there's one commentary or opinion pages, or opinion columns. The guy was saying that being a Chinese, uh, we used to say that knowledge is power. That's not just a cliche because in China that's really true. Why? Because if you could manage to get into an elite college, then you will be able to move your household registration location from countryside to the city. That's a big deal. Why? Because everybody wants to move to the city. The household registration system is unique only in China, to my knowledge. But anyway, so that basically determined whether you belong to the countryside or you belong to the urban area. That's a big deal. Right now, it's a little bit relaxed because people in the city they actually want to go to the countryside to get some authentic, organic food stuff. So they want to visit the countryside. So, but anyway, this is very important. The point I'm trying to make is that whether you major in engineering or Chinese major, it's basically a family decision. It's not unlike the American majority of the American student high schoolers. They pick their choice. They make their college majors mostly because they like something, they love something. Right? Of course, we do have some helicopter parent. We heard some scandals. Some celebrity parents try to spend extra money to bribe the some systems and get their daughters and sons into some elite college. But that's a minority. That's why it's newsworthy, right? If it's a common and everything, and then nobody's no media is going to cover it. So, but anyway, so here is an important difference that I always suggest that don't hang up too much on the number of the engineering graduate. Here is an easy example. Engineering major student come into the U.S. If they find that the finance major makes more money, easier to get a job, easier to get a green card, get your H-1 visa, they'll not even think twice. They just go, okay, let me go to finance. So here is a lot of the Chinese. Of course, you have to remember that the college education is basically memorizing and for test only. So this kind of the engineering doesn't really produce much. Otherwise, that's why I'm more hopeful to see the American engineering majors who make real innovation, I remember, I don't remember if it's an Instagram or a thread that one girl was complaining that when she grew up, her dad is who's an engineer, who set up kind of like a vending machine system, timer the how much time she can watch the TV. That kind of system, I don't think that's possible for Chinese engineering major to do that. So that's why you have to look at the quality, not just the quantity of the number of graduates. Let's stop here.